What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran, and I like helping people using a spiritual perspective. Now, that's interesting because over the last couple months or so, my spiritual perspective has actually shifted from something that I was believing in almost too much, almost to a detriment to myself. And I actually don't think maybe almost shouldn't even be part of the equation. It really was a detriment to myself. I've moved away from a certain belief system. Now, what that belief system is something that I'm going to talk about with you today, and it has a lot to do with New Age nonsense, New Age positive movement thinkings, and sort of like this high vibrational, low vibrational myth. Okay, so let's just get into the video, I think, and let's talk about really what this video is supposed to be about. And this is supposed to be about the myth of your outer reality, your affecting your outer reality being a reflection of what's in your reality, okay? And this is very similar to the idea of your own vibration being the cause of the things outside of you, as well, and it all plays a part, really, into this whole idea of good vibes only, positive vibes only. And that kind of culture, all these things go hand in hand, it's very toxic. That culture is incredibly detrimental, and what it does is it searches for someone to blame. There's somebody to blame in this scenario. With all three of these things I mentioned, there's somebody that you need to blame, whether it's somebody else for causing you a low vibration, a low vibe, a low feeling, or you blame yourself for that action as well. Okay, so what happens is people treat vibrations as if they're on a totem pole. And many people do. I mean, these are spiritual teachers teaching this stuff. I used to believe this, which means I used to tell people this. I'm embarrassed, really, to have been part of this. But now that I see the truth, it feels like my mind has been open to something quite freeing, really, to understand that there's nowhere to assign blame. I don't need to blame anybody. It's actually more freeing. The mind likes creating some kind of opponent, something to blame, an enemy, so to speak. But there doesn't need to be one. Okay, so breaking this down, when people give you this myth that your vibration is affects your reality, what that does is it blames the experiencer for something. It blames who you are and what you're experiencing as anything less than what you're supposed to, as anything less than ideal. And it's a judgment. When you have a feeling that enters your body, you make a judgment, a story about it, usually from the past, sometimes from the future. So if you're feeling angry or anxious, or maybe someone's causing you some kind of pain, or you're perceiving someone's low vibration to affect your high vibration, you're assigning blame to somebody, either them or yourself, and it's a judgment. Your mind says, oh, well, then this must mean, and when they say that, this must mean something. When your mind is giving a story, that's proof of your ego trying to create a judgment about your experience. But really, what you're experiencing is a physical sensation. Anxiety is a physical sensation. When you break away the story, when you break away your mind, basically anything secondhand, what happens is you come into just pure awareness. And that awareness allows you to be something like a novice again. Right? We have too much information in our heads, and it puts us into just our body, puts us into our experience, the actual moment of this experience, whatever it may be, and we get to truly understand what's happening. Is my chest tight? Do I feel something in my stomach? Is my throat feeling a little blocked? Is my head, feeling too much pressure right here? What's actually going on with the feelings that you've put a story to? Because in truth, there is no positive or low vibration. That's not how it works. Vibration is better understood as your resilience towards changes. Okay, so for example, if at one point in my life I was upset that I lost something that I was writing, a Word document, then what happens is then at that point in my life, and this is definitely true, I would freak out. My whole day would be ruined. I would completely ruin my whole day, and I would just be angry. And now if that happens, I just say to myself, oh, well, here's an opportunity to work on something else, okay? And even if I don't have necessarily like a good judgment about it, I kind of just accept it for what it is. And this literally happened yesterday. I went to there's like a place, like a petting zoo, an island thing, basically trying to get somewhere in time to do something. And I was with somebody in order to do that thing. And we had all these stops along the way. We missed the ferry to get to the island. There was all these things that were building up anxiety and creating different kinds of changes and stuff like that. And by the time we got there, we still had an hour and a half until the place closed, but apparently they had decided that day that they were going to close at 5 p.m. no matter what. So it didn't matter what we did and how we felt, it was always going to be closed. And I was worried about it, trying to control the situation, trying to get there on time, being filled with anxiety, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And I thought that was funny. I thought that all the missed opportunities and everything just to get there in the first place, and it didn't matter anyway, how much I was trying to force something. I actually started laughing. And there was times in my life where that would have really bothered me. And what happens is that if we never would have had those missed opportunities, we would have gotten in there for about 10 minutes, maybe even 5, and they would have kicked us out. So that would have felt worse. It would have felt worse to get into a place for 5 minutes only to then get kicked out rather than not being allowed in at all. So your bad luck protects you sometimes from worse luck as well. So our mind tends to judge the experiences that we have on the outside and to find patterns and things to sort of blame. We like to assign blame. A lot of the time we assign that blame to ourselves, and other times we assign it to individuals and other circumstances, right? Right? We get it, like if you don't have money at the moment, or maybe you have a hard time finding a job, we like to blame the economy or blame the market. And then what spiritual people, a lot of teachers will say is like, hey, it's not their fault. So they'll tell you to not assign blame elsewhere, but they don't tell you not to blame yourselves. Now they're not obviously saying the words, please blame yourself, but what they're doing is enticing your mind to find a culprit. They're still looking for someone to blame. So all that's left is it's a half measure of blaming yourself. I think they have the awareness to realize the outside shouldn't be blamed. Your external circumstances are not the cause of your feelings, but your feelings arising as situations happen are also not to blame. They're a part of the human experience. They're not negative, they're not low vibrational. Your vibration is not a totem pole, it's not a social class. There's no hierarchy to this thing. Everybody must act as a child before they can become an adult. And the thing is when you understand that, you realize that your experiences in life are dictated by who you are and what you think at that moment. I used to enjoy going out to bars when I was in my early 20s, 21, 20, I guess, I used to like hanging out. I used to like doing these sorts of things, these kinds of people. I wasn't low vibrational, right? Because the things I was doing at that time were bringing me joy and happiness, and my life was moving in a forward direction. Okay, I had friends, I had a social group, I was part of a cycle. But I grow up. It happens in life. We grow up. It's not that big of a deal. It's not a determinant of something bad or good that you're doing. Good and bad is a judgment. It's what works and what doesn't work. At one point in my life, marijuana worked for me. It raised my vibration at one point. It opened my mind, expanded me to understand lots of different ideas and lots of different topics. And that was a beautiful part of my life. And now, at this point in my life, it doesn't help me. It doesn't work. It's not even that it's a low vibrational substance, or that even that it's harmful in a way, because of course everybody's going to have different experiences with it. It just doesn't work for me anymore. So to continue to do something that doesn't work is the definition really of insanity. And it's just like opening up the fridge late at night trying to find something to eat. Really what happens is you just lower your standards every time you open it until you then find something, because you didn't originally have what you wanted. But the items in your fridge didn't go from high vibrational to low vibrational, right? There may have been things in your fridge you first saw, and then eventually you settle for white bread and cheese. It's not that the white bread and cheese was low vibrational, it just wasn't your first choice. You lowered your standards, okay? So vibration is best determined, again, by how you react to things. Your resilience toward life changes, because things happen on the outside, and if you believe in a universe or a God or a source or a presence or spirit or anything, whatever you want to call it, then what you most likely believe is that there is some sort of plan. Your higher self, your soul, has given you some opportunity in life to experience a certain set of things. You have your life, I have mine. The people that come in and out, the situations, the jobs, the friends, the moments, the passions, the creativity, it all ebbs and flows into your specific resonance. Who you are as a soul and who you are as a human, what kind of character you're playing. You have a story, and it plays out. And you experience it as an experiencer. And what happens then, if you believe that, is to then do the opposite by suggesting that something that was meant to happen is then your fault. I've had a friend who really I start to realize is not the kind of friend that I really want in my life anymore, has blamed me, without saying, I blame you, but has blamed me for planes being late. because I was feeling anxious and impatient about my plane not taking off the ground. And she would say things like, oh, well, that's because, the plane didn't take off because of your vibration, because of where you're at, because of because you're impatient and angry. As if somehow I could affect the situation and the life of everybody else in the plane, right? Like it's me who's doing it. I'm the one to blame, right? And so again, those situations look for someone to blame. It's my vibration, my energy. No, my vibration is determined in that situation by how I react. If I quickly decide, you know what, it's not that big of a deal, I'll just read a book. I'll just do something else. I'll take a nap. Because there's nothing I can do about the situation. 30 minutes late, whatever. But it's not my fault that the plane is late. Now, there's a general principle that the more negative you are, the more you tend to look for negativity, and that creates something called a confirmation bias. It's a basic idea in psychology, it's true in spirituality, and it makes sense when you think about it. But it's an oversimplification to say that your vibration determines your outside reality. Certainly, there have been times in life where I was looking for negative road rage drivers. I had road rage. I responded to those elements as negative, and so I attracted that a lot into my life. And you might have examples of that for yourself or others, but you see that. But when I got rid of that sort of feeling and I stopped reacting that way, I didn't look for as many angry drivers. But it wasn't that they weren't there. It's that I stopped caring. I stopped being affected by it. So it still happened. Not as much because I wasn't looking for it. It's confirmation bias. If you go and look for red Ferraris, you're going to go see more red Ferraris than usual. There isn't a sudden increase in red Ferraris. They were always there. So, stop assigning yourself blame. This frees you up. A lot of the New Age law of attraction thinking blames the experience or blames the individual. Right? It takes away from blaming your outside experiences, so it seems very wise and smart, but it just puts the blame somewhere else. The mind is looking for someone to blame, something to blame, somewhere to blame. There's nothing to blame. You're not getting any closer to enlightenment with the how high vibrational you are, because people want to be high vibrational to what? Avoid all pain, to experience only pleasure. There's no vibration where you only experience all pleasure and only experience all pain. And you can tell from different points in your life. I've had bad moments in my life where I still experience some joy, and really good moments in my life where I experienced some bad things that were happening. Good things tend to happen sometimes, bad things sometimes tend to happen. Sometimes you have a few months of really good stuff, and then something happens and it triggers you and you go through some kind of emotional turmoil, and those help you. They help your resilience, they build you. So when things happen, it's from a soul perspective, you start to see the opportunity of growth rather than the judgment of the mind to assign blame, because that stunts your growth. It keeps you from actually, if you're going to believe in this concept, from actually raising your vibration. It keeps you from getting to that point. It destroys your chances of getting closer to enlightenment, which again is a little bit silly because you're already enlightened. There's already that presence and that power and that energy and that love inside of you. Okay? The only thing in the way is the story and the mind. So it's when, some people say smarter people, Eckhart Tolle, David Hawkins, these intelligent, with this sort of perspective anyway, that they really talk about things like, they say that there's nothing really wrong with you, just the things that you tell yourself. If you constantly remind yourself of a story inside your brain of who you are, then you're more likely to be that person continuously. So if the story of yourself is a shitty, weak-willed individual, that's how you might feel about yourself. I certainly don't think you're shitty, but if you think of yourself like that, then you're more than likely to play that out into your life. But there's still plenty of experiences that might prove otherwise. I've been incredibly negative about things happening and it all worked out fine. And yet a lot of spiritual people would tell me that by thinking like that, I was going to attract a negative experience. But it doesn't make any sense, because what's going to happen is going to happen. If you put yourself 2 months from now and there's something coming up in a week, you'll realize that if it happened 2 months from now, you'll realize that it happened for a reason and now you have that thing. Or if it didn't happen 2 months from now, you'll realize that it wasn't for you, and there may be other opportunities and other things to focus on at that time. So you shouldn't blame your emotions. It's not negative to have feelings that you perceive as negative, that you perceive as bad. There is no good and bad. So you just have these feelings. They may be uncomfortable, they may not be pleasurable, but you have them, and it's not a bad thing to experience them. It's part of why you're here. It's part of yourself. Okay, you shouldn't run from those things. the law of attraction and a lot of this new age belief system, it's like repression. The positive vibes only, it's repressed. And these are the types of people who don't want to deal with you, don't want to talk to you. And those are the types of friends that I'm realizing that I guess I've made along the ways. When I disagree with their vibrational, positive only vibes thing, it's like they condescend me and patronize me as if I'm being the negative one. I'm the one who doesn't understand. I don't get it. Even though I'm just questioning a basic premise that doesn't make too much sense. Because if you replace all the new age labels, which sound really nice and that stuff, and you put it back to the old traditions of God and religion, it becomes blatantly obvious how wrong and incorrect these things are being portrayed as. It's the us versus them, black and white duality thinking. And that was supposed to be the thing that spiritual people don't believe, and yet so many people see things black and white still, right? Everybody has their own truth of their experience, and people with more experience than me, less experience than me, might tell you something different, and they might have success with it based upon their life. But that doesn't mean that it's true. And the opinions and the expressions that I'm telling you now aren't some inherent blatant truth. They're part of a truth. They're not my truth. They're not Kieran's truth. It's a truth. It's an opinion. It's here and it resonates with me. But at any point, I can go off of it, and it will still be here for other people to resonate. Truth is a sphere, and you can choose these different modules to come in and out of your experience and your reality to best integrate this life, to experience this life. That's what truth is. There's no inherent truth, and if there was, I don't think our brains could comprehend it. Meditation helps us get back into our body, get out of our mind, and just to be into an experience. And that will be, it's more helpful than judging and blaming yourself, your experiences in life, the outside world, everything. Don't assign blame. If your mind's coming up with a story and assigning blame, then you're already a step off of what you already need to be experiencing. Everything's fine as it is. Love what comes up in front of you. It's hard, yes. I'm not portraying that it's supposed to be easy, but if you have the courage to do so, a message for myself as well, you will see better results come in. Because the more you love yourself, the better your experiences of life, the better you get to experience life. That's all that means. It's not a perfect method, because it doesn't mean all pleasure, all pain, but it gives you a better chance of enjoying your life. Okay? So that's my message for you today, guys. The purpose of which being, stop blaming yourself, stop hating yourself, stop thinking that you're doing something wrong if something bad happens on your outside. You got rear-ended. It's not your fault. But if you don't react negatively and lash out at other people and blame them and get really angry and throw a whole fit and just accept it for what it is, you're already a step closer. You've learned what you're supposed to learn. Those situations probably won't happen too much, and they don't happen often, okay? Because if you're watching this video, you're probably not the most negative person in the world, so I think you're okay. You might be negative right now about any number of things in your life, but that doesn't make you a negative person. And even if it did, it doesn't mean that you always will be. Everybody must be a child before they're an adult. Okay, guys, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.